Welcome, welcome. We are live to Cafecito Power Break. Welcome, Iliana. Well, you're joining me
Uh,
today, so this is great.
yes. So exciting to be here.
Yay. Well, welcome everybody. This is our third edition. We're excited. Let us know in the chat wherever you're joining us from, if it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Definitely want to hear who's joining us. We got a great conversation today on imposter syndrome. We're going to dissect it. This is a common ailment in our community. And I think there's so many different perspectives around this. There's for different reasons and different stages in life, right? So I'm excited to dive into this because this is a good conversation.
Yes. And
So
I'm trying to join to see the chat on LinkedIn, but technology today is not on our side. So,
yeah, it can be. It can be. And then let us know what your definition of imposter syndrome is in the chat wherever you're joining us from. Like I think about, you know, imposter syndrome. Like in general, for
yeah.
me, it's like underestimating one's abilities, right? We underestimate ourselves in so many different ways. We look at ourselves as, well, less than, right? We're the lesser one in the room, as opposed, we love
Yeah.
to, there's just so many different reasons for different stages, right? This can happen in a professional environment. This can
Yeah.
happen in so many different stages and moments in life. But
Yeah. Yeah.
why do we do that? Yeah.
You know me, like I love to find those reasons why and to look at research, and I have some interesting data because this is a fascinating subject to me, and I found that research shows that 70% of people experience imposter syndrome feelings at some point in their career. So been there, done that, yes. And contrary to popular belief that it only affects women, it also affects men. So I think that's important to notice. Although obviously, I think in women we reflect that more. And the other thing that I found fascinating was an article that was published by the Harvard Business Review that says, and this is a quote: "Imposter syndrome directs our view towards fixing women at work instead of fixing the places where women work." So people really talk about imposter syndrome as putting the blame on the person, in this case, women, versus accounting for the historical and the cultural context that really, affect and create this environment where then women have this feeling. So I thought that that was interesting to acknowledge.
That is such an interesting, because I think it could happen both ways, right? Because there is a lot of internal mindset work that we need to do, as well as, like you said, feeling and looking like you're being represented in your own. But what if you're the first? So then you have
Yeah.
to lead that way. So you would still feel that sense of imposter syndrome for those mindset reasons. Wow, this is interesting. It
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
from every angle. Hmm.
Yeah, and as Latinas, I think, and you see this all the time, and I think you and I have lived through it, right? That they're accentuated because we don't see people like us very often in the spaces that we're in the industries or in the workplaces. So then that puts double pressure in terms of feeling inadequate, or do I have what it takes? Or all of these silent voices, or these voices in our heads
Yep.
that amplify this feeling, this fear, all of these beliefs, because we don't have anybody to be able to say, okay, if that person did it, or if she was able to do it, then I have the capacity to do that. So that's even puts a
Yeah.
double whammy on this whole situation.
Yeah, I love that. Do I have what it takes? Because even growing up in our own households, there wasn't necessarily those
Oh,
figures within our home, so we didn't see it. Therefore, those things were over there. They were outside of the box that we culturally sometimes fit in or put ourselves in. In on the mindset stage. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, and then like things on a on a day to day basis, right? Like as we talk about, I know I mentioned before. whatever stage you're at in life, there's different points, there's different types of imposter syndrome that you could
Yeah.
feel. Because even having a conversation recently with someone who is actually and I talk about this all the time in private with you, the whole menopause and our age group, and just this thing that isn't really broadly spoken about, but we talk about. She was mentioning to me, I was a professional. I knew I was like hustling. I was that, especially in your 20s and in your 30s and in your career, you are like, two, 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 two. And then when life hits you, and even then, when we have felt imposter syndrome being the only Latina, or maybe sometimes completely Hispanic person in the space, we had to, which I want to get to, what we had to do to really think,
Yeah.
to feel like I belong here. But as you get older, it's the, well, who am I now? There's a new change that happens. You become someone new. Then I don't think that we were prepared for that. So it's a different. I don't know. It's a different. There's so much to
Yeah. Yeah.
unravel here. This is not like a cafecito
And
talk.
oh my God, so many things to unpack in so little time. I do want to acknowledge Carolina. Hi, Carolina from Southern California. Share your story with us as well about imposter syndrome. I think we've all. I know that I've had imposter syndrome many times. Any story that you can think of, Sandra, for yourself?
Oh my God, I have a ton. I don't even know. I mean, so I could tell you a quick story on the very first women's gathering that I had, the an event that I had, and that was in 2017, something like that. And I'll tell you why. I was all excited, right? I'm putting together this women's event. Going to be my first. I was like, this needs to happen. This needs to happen. This is more mission based. That was driving it before everything else. I knew that I had to do this, right? So sometimes we're called to do something. It was calling me. So the day of, me levanté, and I was feeling like, why am I doing this? Why? Oh my God, I don't want to do this. I don't
Oh
want to
yeah.
feel this feeling. Maybe this is not for me. Like, I don't want to have this anxiety and this, like, am I doing the right thing? I'm going to flounder. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to say the wrong things. And like, I don't know. Like, so all day, that whole morning, I was feeling like that. And it was the worst feeling ever. And then I showed up un poquito nerviosa, but once the people start coming in, I was just like getting in my groove, feeling like, and
Yeah.
reminding myself, like, hold up, I got all these women here. Like, what does that say, And I just kept reminding myself of spiritually who I am. I'm not this material being. I'm such a spiritually connected to all of us and to everything that is. So it's like checking myself, like, hold up, yes, I feel that often. And then it's, for me, it's, hold up, check yourself. You are a
Yeah.
God powered, beautiful being, and everyone here is feeling the same thing. And if we continue in this cycle, then we will just perpetuate more of that. So I just like got it together. It was just, and I just pour from the heart. And I think that that's what
Awesome.
really does, right? Is when you share from the heart, then all of that kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think your example resonates so much with me in terms of there's the imposter syndrome that happens you with yourself, like these inner dialogues of I did this, and then suddenly consciousness falls and you're like questioning, do you have it in you? Do you not have it in you? But all of this are these inner dialogues that we have in our mind. And then there's the other piece, which is the external situation, right? I remember for me several times when you think you're ready, you got it going, you get to an event, or you get assigned to a project or a new role, and you're all excited, and then there's this comment from somebody, right, that puts you down, that like burst your bubble, like I don't think they have it in them, or tries to be nice in their comment, but then you're suddenly in shock. And I've been there, done that, lived through it many times when you get to those leadership positions, and then you can see the comments on the side of, who is this Latina here in the board, who is this Latina here sitting at the table, and they talk over you, you say something and they ignore you, right? And that impacts your self-confidence, and you start to question, like, well,
Yeah.
then do I have it, right? Do I, maybe I'm in the wrong place, or maybe I don't have what it takes to be in this table, or to be in this room, or to be in this position, or whatever. And that can have a really, really long lasting effect, because it's sort of like even trauma that carries over. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we don't see a lot of Latinas rising to the top, right?
Yeah. This is so very true. And the feeling is so very true. I just listened to, I forgot what audiobook I was listening to, and they were telling a story about this little girl, and she believed she could do something. Like it was a little, I'll tell the story another time. But, and then, so makes me think, is it because as Latinas, we're more attentive to recognize those signals? Like because we're on alert for them? And do we have to figure out a way to just, I don't know, this is interesting. You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, yeah, I think I would love to hear from the audience, but from my experience and with my clients, I think it's a lot of we've just been wired, right,
Hmm.
from learning, from
Yeah.
experience, from hearing others, and we're always like on the lookout of where's
Yeah.
the next thing going to come.
Yeah.
So yes, I think we're more empathetic. I also, I would say, in that sense. But clearly, it's something that we need to learn to manage, and to, I love your example, to go back and remember, like, hey, I did all of these things. I speak two languages, right? I do, we've accomplished so much, so that we don't put ourselves down when the comments come up. And the other thing is then also, as Latinas, to use our voice and our power, so that then others feel encouraged, right? Because I've also seen many people put down, you know, other people, and I think we need to be more mindful that we're opening spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good other conversation. Like, I mean, how trauma impacts behavior in a negative way sometimes. Check list list of conversations for
List of
today.
things.
Yeah, because those are important. I think as a community, we want to evolve past those moments, right? Past those inhibitors that are really stopping us from progressing forwardly with that. I am the master of my fate. I am responsible for the thoughts that are going on in my mind. And even things like imposter syndrome are all just figments of our imagination, right? In essence, I mean, they're very real to us, right? But they're, in essence, things that we have to, and I think that if we're more alert to, like, oh, they're, for example, like if we're walking through a neighborhood and I'm going to get mugged, you're probably going to get mugged, right? Because you're giving off that energy, versus I'm walking in there with confidence. And the same for all of life, right? I think is when you walk into I'm less than, you're going to feel less than. People are going to receive you as less than. But when you walk in remembering who you
Yep,
are, people
absolutely.
will receive that part of you. And then you'll be a blessing to others because you allow others to be that free, as freely as you are to express
Yep,
yourself.
absolutely. So, any tips, tricks that have helped you overcome those imposter syndrome moments?
I think for me, health, right? Like when you work out, when I'm down, and even as I'm aging, right? As I'm down or feeling like less than, as I told you, going through this change in my life and this time and season in my life, exercise. Like even when through COVID, I really slacked on exercise, even though I have a gym right here, but just the whole going through the whole thing. And I got to tell you that it put me in a negative, like just a not a good
Yeah.
state of mind, right? So they always believe exercise. Every time I'm exercising, I'm like, what? Throw it at me. I got it. You know what I mean? So I have that energy, and I think exercise and fitness and feeling and making sure that we're moving our bodies is definitely number one. Is you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that triggers. Hmm.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Joe Estrada from Texas. Thank you from Joe for joining. I would say I agree on the exercise. I should do it more often, or actually, I should start doing it. I have to be open and transparent about that. I would also say I think leaning on others. Because sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard for ourselves to overcome those inner voices and those inner dialogues and those feelings of I'm not good enough. You just get into yourself. But when you have a trusted, group of people or somebody that you can lean on and that you can trust and say, hey, today's not a good day, or I don't know if I can do this anymore, or
Yeah.
you're feeling down, you're doubting yourself. And when you surround yourself with people that will encourage you, that will remind you who you are, that will cheer you up, that will, be there for your support system, I think that that's really, really powerful, which in a way is what we have here at United Latinas, right?
Yeah.
It's that, no, ese grupito
Mhm.
de personas que te ayudan to overcome those negative voices.
Yeah, yeah. By putting you in places that will amplify your voice, because that's what we do.
And I think remind ourselves all the things that we've accomplished, right? Because
Hmm.
all of us have accomplished, like, I do believe we have resilience in our blood,
Hmm. Yeah,
right? It
yeah,
just like through what we've seen our parents and our grandparents and all the struggles. I think we just need to remember and reconnect with that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Another thing that when we think about like building that or stopping that imposter syndrome, I always feel is the counting. And I talk about this a lot, even in my coaching office hours. We tend to do or give ourselves a task that we're like, It's only going to be me that I'm going to tell this to. I don't want to put it out in public because if I fail myself,
Yeah.
and nobody knows, right? So there's no real accountability, right? Because we're okay with letting ourselves down,
Oh
but
my God,
and then
yes.
we feel like okay, less than. But if we can, even if we choose a couple small goals that we can do, that like sometimes even for me to get myself back in the rhythm of getting back in the gym, I'm like, I'm just going to get in there and I'm just going to walk a mile. I'm just going to go in there for 20 minutes. That's it. Because I know that even if I just tell myself I'm just going to hit the treadmill, I'm going to do weights. Like but I don't want to go in there to do weights. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. But you know what I mean? Like it's like if that's like intimidating, but those small goals of now I'm like, damn, I feel good. I did. I went in there. I went in there
Yeah.
and I was in there for an hour. I was in there for 2 hours yesterday. So it's like those little goals that whatever they are for ourselves, and that's for me because that like fitness for me is like I think my main thing. I don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
grow
No.
old, right? I don't want to grow old.
Yeah, small steps, right? Because sometimes it can be very overwhelming. Like whatever you're facing can be
Yeah,
very overwhelming. But
yeah,
okay, I'm just going to take it a day at a time or a step at a time or, one thing at a time. And I think that can help us eh, recover a little bit of that confidence that maybe for some reason was not there and
yeah,
see that, oh my God, it's not as bad as it looked,
yeah, yeah, for
right?
sure.
The
And
other
that just
thing that I want
oh,
to say, go ahead.
no, no.
No,
I was going to mention the part of speaking, right, and being
yeah,
and having imposter syndrome. But go ahead, you go first, and then we'll go.
I was just going to say in terms of fear, recognize sometimes it's about just recognizing the true behind the true reason behind the fear, right? We
Yep,
sometimes we just feel the emotion, but we don't rationalize it to see like you were doing in your example, right? Like is I'm feeling the the fear of, what if this goes wrong, what if this happens, what if I can't make it, all of those things. But when we start rationalizing the fear and when we start saying, well, what really can go wrong, or what am I afraid of, all of those things, it can also help sort of bring perspective to the feeling. And and it's not necessarily eliminating it, but definitely bring it down to something that's more manageable, that we can then take those first steps in believing in ourselves.
yep, yep, exactly. Amen to that. And like that goes right into what I was stepping into, which is when we think about fear, especially as professionals and in growing on this level, the opportunities, because even as we know, as we try to get more women to be speakers and to get them to express their voice,
Yeah.
there's always that sense of hesitancy because I'm going to be judged, or I don't know. It's a whole a lot of these things to impact that have, impacted. But how do you, or how did you push back that first moment of, okay, I need to exert this skill set.
Yeah.
I gotta move past this fear. What did you do?
I think for me, the thing that that drives me the most, like the fuel that gets me to overcome all of these things after I go deep down into like panic mode, I really have to say it's my kids, right, and my family. It's like I can't, if I'm not doing it for myself, then I need to do it for them and show them that this can be done, right? Because I can't expect other people to do what I would not be willing to do myself. So when I tell them, go ahead, you can do this, you have everything, you're strong, you have all of these great qualities, and I try to empower them, I can't mm, continue to do that and be honest with myself if I don't do it myself. So I think that's the little voice in the back of my head that when I'm really down, I'm like, this is it. Like there's no there's no way to move forward. That's the little voice that comes in like, well, if you don't do it, then how can you expect your kids to do it as well? And that's what gets me off the ground and say, okay, now I'm not only doing this, but no, les voy a demostrar.
Yeah.
But it does take like that extra energy to get you up and running.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you mentioned before, and I know we're just a couple minutes over, but I know you mentioned before the circle, the people that you have around you, right? That sum of your five concept, right? You are the sum of the five closest people around you, the
Oh
way
my
they
God, I
think.
love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Yes.
So I think that that's an important thing when we think about overcoming imposter syndrome. Like, who's around you that is
Yeah.
encouraging you, that is also ambitious, that's also chasing something, right? Not just idle, not just come, let's Netflix and chill kind of. There's moments for that, pero, for the most part, that wants something out of life, that feels pulled by some passion or mission. I don't know. For what else is life? I don't know.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, I love that saying. I recent, well, like 2 or 3 years ago, I heard it about who are the five people that you surround yourself with that can push you. And I made a list. I'm like, oh, I don't have that many people, and
Yeah,
that's when I started to build my network because it's so true. If they
yeah,
don't push you, then you're not going to move forward.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's
For sure.
scary.
Huh?
It's scary, right?
Hmm. And not a lot of people have the, five people, five full people. But even I read as a tip for anybody watching this, or for all of us, like, even if you don't have five people that you look to, even if they're mentors, maybe they could be someone that is a guru that you are consuming their content. That could be because they're in your ear. They're constantly talking in your ear, and that's what I think is really is have positive, motivating things from people that are telling you go get what you want out of life. Otherwise, pa qué? All your ambitions are going to die with you in the grave.
Yeah.
And that's
And
how
if
I have.
not, then here, United Latinas will be here, will be your cheerleaders, will be, that those supporters to move you along in any way that we can. Because I think that's what we're here to do, right? To
I love
elevate,
it.
to amplify, to empower
Yep. And to help you
other
overcome imposter
voices.
syndrome.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Awesome. So that is, hope you guys got a little inspiration. Please, if you're interested in joining us, becoming a member, go to unitedlatinas.com. Also, we opened up our shop. I know it's holiday time, November, December. So we did open up our unitedlatinas.com/shop. Also, the button is on the main page también. Um, Definitely support Latina-owned businesses, our store, buy some merch, and support our Latinas and our authors and all the good stuff we got going on.
Yeah. And become members, become affiliates. Let's spread the word. Let's champion other Latinas to rise to the top so that we have more role models that our younger generations can follow. And hopefully we can maybe not eliminate imposter syndrome, but definitely minimize it or make it more manageable.
Yes. Amen. Amen. I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. Anything else you want to share, or we are closing
We
out?
are. We're good to go. Back to our day.
All
Hopefully, a
right.
little bit more inspired, a little bit more empowered.
Yay. Take care, guys. Be blessed.